Democrats have some major problems that are making them consider whether or not they should try to force Joe Biden out of the race because two brand new polls over the weekend in liberal media outlets have them questioning whether or not he has what it takes to make it across the finish line. But then that also opens up a gigantic can of worms, which would involve countless other problems that may be just as difficult.
Today marks exactly 1 year from the 2024 presidential election and what could end up being a rematch between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Our new CBS News poll shows Biden continues to trail Donald Trump in that possible head-to-head. He is now down 3 points. For more on why, we go to Anthony Salvanto. Good morning to you, Anthony.
Good morning. Many Democrats are starting to realize that despite President Trump's occasional immature behavior and mean tweets, the country, the economy, our culture, the entire world was a much better and safer place when he was in charge.
The number of Americans who think that things are going badly in the country today has hit its high for the year. So you might expect any incumbent to be down as Biden is. But then look at these positive views of what people think will happen for them financially if Donald Trump wins. Way more voters think they'd be better off. And Biden, for his part, hasn't fully convinced as many Democrats that he'd help them as the middle class still reels from inflation.
The New York Times also came out with a poll over the weekend showing that Donald Trump is beating old Joe in numerous key swing states. And so, of course, the Operation Mockingbird assets aren't very happy about that.
Biden in 5 of the 6 key battleground states, including some rather large leads in Nevada and Arizona.
Yeah, it's not an outlier. We've seen similar polls like this that show in that hypothetical matchup, which doesn't seem all that hypothetical anymore, of Biden versus Trump. It shows that he can actually win and is leading in these battleground states. But, George, I have to tell you, one thing to consider here is Trump has been in the news over the last year or so based on these criminal cases, the civil case in New York. But people have not been paying attention to what Trump has become. Trump, since he left the White House, and this is really the theme of my book, has become...
You hear that, guys? We got to buy his book in order to learn his expert analysis of why, despite Donald Trump being smeared in the media 24/7 for years now, he still is beating old Joe. And speaking of books, mine comes out tomorrow, will be the big reveal, so be sure to check back here for that, and then order it on Amazon immediately, first thing in the morning, so that we can boost it, hopefully, to #1. But please, tell us more of your expert analysis, sir.
Trump, since he left the White House, and this is really the theme of my book, has become more detached from reality than he ever was even in the White House. If you think of where we were in January of 2021, that's the starting point for where a Trump presidency would be next time around. So I think he's had largely, believe it or not, a free ride. Again, the criminal cases we know about, but what he's thinking, what he's doing,
he's had a free ride, meaning that the media isn't attacking him enough, and the American people just aren't paying enough attention to their important reporting. But Joe Biden's terrible poll numbers are leading Democrats to have some very uncomfortable conversations.
This is probably going to lead to a lot of Democrats increasing the chatter that Joe Biden should step aside and make room for another Democrat.
And I think the problem that Democrats have is they don't know who that Democrat would be right now. I don't think that people look at Kamala Harris and feel like she is ready to take that step forward. They look across the rest of the party, governors, senators, mayors, House members, and they're struggling to figure out who they could put up if it's not Joe Biden.
How is it that these people get paid to give their political analysis? Everybody knows that the man waiting in the wings is California Governor Gavin Newsom. At the end of the month, he's going to be debating Ron DeSantis, the Republican establishment's favorite choice for the Republican nominee. For some weird reason, a man who's supposedly not running for president or not running yet, debating against the Republican establishment and Conservative Inc., the brand name Conservatives, favorite candidate. And now David Axelrod, who was Barack Obama's senior advisor, has weighed in on the polls, saying that they will send tremors of doubt throughout the Democrat Party. And that while Joe, should be proud of his accomplishments, blah, 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 only Joe can make the decision if he continues to run. He says he will be the nominee of the Democrat Party, which I don't doubt, because let's not forget that the Democrats voted into Senate John Fetterman, a man who couldn't even finish a sentence, literally. What he needs to decide, he says, is whether that is wise, whether it's in his best interest or the country's. Joe Biden would not have run for re-election if Donald Trump didn't first announce that he was running for re-election, because they expected him to just bow his head in shame and then scurry away off into the sunset after the mostly peaceful protest at the Capitol on January 6th. But once Donald Trump announced that he was running again, if Joe Biden didn't continue to run for re-election, he would have looked weak. The entire Democrat Party would have looked weak. He would have looked like he was afraid of Donald Trump and afraid that he was going to lose if they had a rematch. So he had to announce that he was running again. But Joe Biden is aging like milk. And so even Bill Kristol, who's a neocon who, like all neocons, wants the Democrats to stay in power, is calling for old Joe to step down, saying, "It's time. President Biden has served our country well. I'm confident he'll do so for the next year. But it's time for an act of personal sacrifice and public spirit. It's time to pass the torch to the next generation. It's time for Biden to announce he won't run in 2024. That tweet is from yesterday. But this would lead to another massive problem, because if he were to drop out, then by tradition, the vice president would pick up the baton and then continue the race. But his VP is the diversity hire, Kamala Harris, who not only is completely incompetent, but also completely disliked by the majority of Democrats. In fact, she was polling so low during the run for presidency. Remember, she ran for president in 2020, that she was one of the first to drop out. And as the world continues to spiral into chaos, clips from the 2020 election like this are going to resurface and go viral and remind the American people just what a terrible decision they made by, well, supposedly, voting for this man and putting him into the White House.
The world has changed because of what Trump has done. And the American people, including independents and some Republicans, know how bad he is, know how much he's misrepresented, know how he's getting close to getting us in a war. I said, as the walls close in on this man, I'm worried he's going to get us to war in Iran. Unfortunately, I may have been right.
Actually, if anything gets us into war with Iran, it's going to be our government continuing to give billions of dollars a year to a certain little country in the Middle East in order to help defend their borders during their ongoing land dispute between two different ethnic groups that's been going on in its current iteration for 75 years. And by the way, I'm having a pre-Black Friday sale starting today at markdice.com, where you can save 25% off of any of my shirts by using the promo code HOLIDAYS25, holidays with a Z. It's not my promo code. The t-shirt distributor came up with it. I know it's lame, but you can use it and save 25% off of your Wanted for President shirt or any of my awesome designs. So head on over to markdice.com or click the link in the description below. Enter the promo code HOLIDAYS25 at the checkout to save 25% this week. And check them out.